What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at Data Dash, and today is September 8th of 2017. So as you all know, if you watch my channel, you probably keep up to date with market trends and cryptocurrencies, and we've been talking a lot about how with all the FOMO that's coming to Bitcoin, the long-term players, and ICOs, we have had a massive run-up in cryptocurrencies over the past few months, and now it seems like we're finally getting the pullback we've been talking about. We've been talking about how the FOMO was a little overextended, and we need to see a pullback. As you can see, the entire market is taking a pullback here. A lot of ICOs dropping double-digit values in a single day. And I think we're going to continue to see this, honestly. We have been seeing it with some of the players in this market for quite some time. So, that being realized, I really want to show you all some ICOs that I'm keeping on my radar, either waiting for dips or are already at pretty nice lows due to the pullback that they've seen, and really could be potential winners over the next few weeks or next few months. So, what are those ICOs? Well, I want to give you all a little bit of clarification right away. These are just my personal recommendations. However, I have covered each and every one of these on my channel. I usually don't try to, promote coins that I haven't covered before. And if that's the case, that I have covered them, I'm going to go ahead and leave the links down below in the description so you can go ahead and watch every single one of those if your heart so desires to, and if you'd like to learn a little bit more about them if you don't know enough already. But that being realized, let's go ahead and jump into the top 5 ICOs I have on my radar for pullbacks. The first one, as you can probably guess, is 10x. I love 10x. 10x has been a player that I've watched in the payment solutions market and has been one of the best leaders. I think Monaco, Token Card are also great players, but they don't have the advantages that 10x has. 10x is being used. You can go get your card in a lot of other countries, and it is really getting adopted and being used. It's got functioning tech, has great benefits, and the 10x token as well gives a lot of benefits if you you want to utilize the 10x token comparative to other cryptocurrencies. So I think that there's a lot of upside to it. Now we've seen that this is sitting around 275 million market cap, stellar volume right here, plenty to where I'd feel fine trading or investing in it. The circulating supply is decent as well comparative to the total supply, and honestly, it just looks like we're at a nice general pullback here. So if we go here to Bittrex, I want to give you guys a very simple technical analysis. You really don't need to give any extensive technical analysis to this because there's not much price action to look at. All we can really apply here is simple, buy low, sell high mechanics. And I'll show you, generally my philosophy on it. So of course we weren't buying up here. We don't buy high. We've talked about it on this channel before. We buy on the cheaper end. We don't want to pay premium, fresh new prices for the fresh high prices on these ICOs. We want to wait towards the cool down and when no one's talking about it. Well, we can see that the volume has slowed down, and we've seen that there's a general pullback here. Now what we're seeing here, I know it might not be clear because I have a lot of indicators, and drawings all over it, but quite frankly, right now, 10x is at more than a 50% pullback. In fact, it's moved 100,000 satoshis down at all this time, and not to mention Bitcoin's been going down as well since its peak. So again, to keep this in mind, 10x is really looking to be a good buy at these levels. I think it's cheap. I think it's undervalued right now. And even with all the hype around it and the fact that it has functioning technology with it coming to U.S. markets in the next few months, in the next few years, and also a lot of other countries right now that don't have that option to use 10x, I think it's going to be fantastic. Not to mention the fact that they're following regulations and really trying to comply, I think is a really good sign. It shows you they're serious and they've got actual functioning tech as well. So if you don't know about 10x, I recommend you go watch my video on it and keep an eye on it because quite frankly, what I think we're going to find here is it's either going to maintain support and break amongst this resistance right here that it's been kind of held in between and wedging between. It's either going to be that or it's going to come down here and find support at the top of this wicks on the candle around the 50,000 Satoshi mark. Either way, if I were to buy in here, if you want my advice, of course it's just my opinion, it's not financial advice. My opinion would be to potentially buy anywhere in this range and set a stop somewhere around 45,000 Satoshis. So that's my mindset on it. But again, 10x looks like a stellar one. It's the reason why it was the first one I brought up. It really is undervalued at these levels in my opinion. Next up, we have Civic. Civic is an ICO I've also covered on my channel. Very optimistic on it. It's kind of in a niche market that ICOs and cryptocurrencies really haven't done in the sense of utilizing blockchain technology for identification, identity verification, and protecting identity and utilizing it, through airports, government buildings, whatever it may be. It is a multi-billion-dollar market. It's a very big industry. And I think Civic is still very young in tackling that market, but at the same time, if it meets to the scale that it's aiming to achieve, it could really be valued at a much higher valuation than it is now. But again, relatively new ICO, and we originally had this big run up in valuation up to around $250 million in market cap, and now we're sitting at 122 million, more than a 50% pullback. So, is this a good buy? Well, we see the volumes there. The volumes there, I can trade it and invest in it, fine. I always say over 500,000, roughly around $500,000 or 110 Bitcoin is usually what you want to look for. And we consider the circulating supply. It looks relatively well to the total supply. Definitely would be nice to get more in the circulating supply, but again, right now it's the same kind of philosophy. We see a lot of these ICOs that had this big run up that have come out back in like June and July, and they had this big run up into August, and then they've had a pretty strong pullback. Now, what I think you're going to see here is a double bottom. It's going to curl back over and bounce off this line, and look where that was previous resistance. Do you think it's going to become, do you think it's just going to break through, or do you think it's going to find support there? I think it's going to find support there. I think it's cheap at these levels. To get this at 36 cents is extremely, extremely cheap. Now, not just because of its cost, but really because of what Civic is capable of, what its valuation is at right now. It's worth much more than this, in my opinion. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the platform, not trying to just overtly promote it, but I've done a video on it. If you want to learn why I'm optimistic, please go watch that. It really is a cool player. But quite frankly, this is just on a technical standpoint. Remember, we don't buy high, we buy low. We wait for the pullback, and we've been patient. I've talked about Civic on this channel. People have asked me, Nick, what do you think about Civic? And I've said, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for that pullback. And this looks like this is going to be the double bottom. I hope we come down there, confirm that price strength confirmation, and then we have a nice rally upwards over the next few months. But it might take a few days. It might kind of slow down and run along the sliding curve up. I don't know. But generally speaking, if you can buy it down here and be patient, you can get paid, in my opinion. So we'll have to see, though. Third up on the list is Aragon. So we've covered this on my channel as well. It's decent, a decentralized ERC20 token for the Ethereum blockchain, and it's aimed. It's kind of funny I said decentralized, but it's really aiming to centralize certain aspects of the blockchain or applications on the blockchain. We know that Aragon is based on a governance structure, if you watch my video on it. And it's building a sense of structure for all these Ethereum-based platforms, for example, District OX, which is using it, where it needs a system of governance. You need a system of rules. With the blockchain, it's great. It's decentralized. There's freedom that comes with it. But at the same time, if institutions and business or organizations want to come onto the blockchain, they need a sense of structure. They need a sense of governance to run rules, make sure everything runs smoothly, and they can utilize the blockchain in its full-fledged force. So again, Aragon is a really interesting piece of technology. I recommend you go watch the video if you don't understand what it is technically or fundamentally. But we can see that Aragon, just in the past few days, has had almost a 50% pullback in its valuation. And I mean, we can generally see back from in June, it still has yet to really ride up towards its highs. Now, I can't do too much technical analysis on this, but I can tell you this. We're not buying high, we're buying low, folks. If you really want to get into Aragon, this is a much better point to get in it than back here. It's just clear, the chart's saying it. Now, if you fundamentally don't believe the tech is there, if you don't believe that Aragon is being used enough, or there's not a value proposition behind, the actual token for Aragon, that's all your opinion. You got to really think about that. And as I always say, something might look good technically to buy, but understanding the fundamental sense of it is also important as well. I like Aragon. I think it's extremely undervalued in the fact that it could be used to govern so many decentralized applications that need governance, that don't have that sense of structure. And Aragon can be applied towards the decentralized applications, or for example, District OX, where there's all these major districts that need a sense of governance. Aragon's coming in and it's fixing that. So again, I think you'll see it more and more. You just need the adoption of Aragon. And on a technical standpoint, you're buying low in this case. Now, it might continue to go down. There's no sense of serious technical support here, so there's a little bit of risk of it. But at the same time, you're not buying at 150,000 Satoshis. You're buying at less than 1/3 of that. You're buying at under 50,000. So again, keep Aragon on your radar. I think it looks pretty good. Next up, we have Omisego. Omisego we've been talking about on this channel. And man, I gotta say, this has had way more optimism than I thought it would. I'm going to be fair. This is not definitely at a buy level for me right now. This is one of the ICOs I'm watching for a pullback. The other ones we talked about they've already well had their pullback. Omisego needs a pullback. It's at $1 billion valuation right now, which I gotta say, it's very impressive. It's actually at its peak was a billion 250 million. So I mean, this has just been an amazing run up for ICO. It's been maintaining a very stellar uptrend, even when I thought this was going to be the breakdown we were looking for, and I thought it was going to, crash down to this area to find support around 100,000 satoshis. It continued, it bounced right back up, and it closed even higher a few days later. So I'm just saying, I'm not buying up here, but what I'm looking for is an eventual kind of, I wouldn't say flash crash, but definitely a definite pullback in this. We need a sharp pullback in this over the next few days, and it needs to come down towards a much more reasonable level down here around 100,000 satoshis. It just has to, folks. This is just too much, and I'm not saying it's going to, but for me to buy into it, I'm not buying at these fresh highs. I'm not paying $11 for each ICO token. I'm not. It's too much for me. So again, I'm waiting for a pullback on this. I think it's a great item if you could get it on a pullback. If this pulls up to, it's at $1 billion in valuation right now. If it pulls anywhere close to around 500 million, that's the area you can start to look to buy. And even if Bitcoin pulls back as well, if this gets down to 300 or 400 million in valuation, might be an interesting area to look to add. But again, you got to really believe in the technology. Go watch the video on ICO. I think long term it's a great cryptocurrency, and I think the platform, seeing as they have an actual company behind, or the actual company Omise behind ICO, I think this is really cool, and it could be one of the leading solutions in the market that it's trying to tackle. Last but not least, I knew I had to talk about IOTA. Now, a lot of you were really positive on my IOTA review. I think I did a pretty decent job on it, but it's one of those ICOs that out of the bat just has so much optimism behind it. Came up with a $1.7 billion valuation. I mean, it's just huge. And we can see that right now it's actually below that, even though it rallied all the way up to $3 billion just a few days ago. It's now had more than a 50% pullback. This is the level you start to add. You don't buy it when it's $3 billion. You buy it when it's 1.5. You buy it when it's 1.4. Add at those levels on the low side, and hopefully it'll come back to those levels, and you can have a 100% return. Just like that in a few months. I mean, we've seen it before. It's not crazy to think that this could do that again, because we were just at 700 million a few weeks ago, and within a matter of 2 weeks, it went from that all the way up to 3 billion. These markets move fast, folks. You just gotta buy low, be patient, wait a few days, don't always watch the charts, and you can see great immense rallies. I'm gonna load it up here. The one problem about IOTA is it's on Bitfinex, so I can't trade it. But again, I want to keep this on your radar just in case this is, there's talks about this. Not only maybe some of you can trade on Bitfinex, because I know they're shutting off the U.S. consumers, which sucks for me. But again, I'm keeping this on my radar for the long term. And I think that this is a great technical pattern right here. So we had the first initial run up. We had a nice, long, drawn-out bull flag and a run-up in price action. And we saw some resistance at this previous resistance level. So what I think it's going to do is continue the pullback. And we're going to see some support here, double bottom price strength confirmation. And we're going to see a breakout not only against this level, but we're really going to continue higher towards around 40,000 satoshis in my mind. I think it's worth it, folks. I think IOTA is a great cryptocurrency. If only it could come to Bittrex. And I wish I could hold it when I hear that news, because I know it's going to jump up. I know it's going to go up when it gets on Bittrex, but I've got to sadly wait for it. But for those of you who can hold IOTA, I recommend you watch it. So anyways, and also if you don't know, watch my video on IOTA, as I was mentioning. It's a great candidate in my mind for the long term. But anyways, that's it for the video, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching. I think these 5 ICOs are really my watch list items. I'm definitely keeping an eye on 10X and Civic. I think those are my favorites in my opinion. They've had more than 50% pullbacks. Aragon looking nice as well. It's on the cheaper end comparative to the expensive end. We might see a little more sell side though. ICO, I have to wait for a pullback, but I love it long term. I think it's a good player, and you can see that there's confidence behind it. And last but not least, IOTA, if you can trade it or invest in it, please utilize that and definitely keep it on your watch list. Outside of that, everyone, that's it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you get the chance. If you've got a recommendation, leave it down in the comments below. But until then, everyone, I will see you all in the next video. Stay tuned.